Did that look sweet? I highly doubt it. All right, we're gonna check out the Hovsco GTRS e-bike. I have to really nail that in my brain because I almost say GT3RS every time because it just Porsche, you know? So I don't know, who knows, maybe this will end up being the Porsche of e-bikes and that's why they named it that. That's what we're here to find out. I'm pretty excited for this though. This is kind of a different review than what I have done in a while. And I'm excited about it because this is kind of a big hobby of mine, a big portion of my life that I like to do. And I don't show it as much on here. And so let's just start by going through the main basic details of this thing. We'll walk around it and check out some of the specs. So you've got 1500 watts of power. You've got a top speed of 32 is what it says on their website. I was actually able to hit 28. Your range, it says 65 miles. I highly doubt that unless you're putting in a lot of your own pedal power. You do have front and rear suspension. You've got a 48 volt, 15 amp hour battery, hydraulic disc brakes, a headlight, rear light, you got blinkers, an LED display, you've got a 7-speed Shimano shifter, you've got fat tires front and rear, a kickstand, and then this comfort seat that has actually been pretty decent. I've been commuting to work every couple days on this thing, and the seat's actually pretty good. So that takes care of most of like the basic specs that you can find on other videos and on their website. I'm more interested in explaining to you like my overall thoughts on this so far. I've been riding it for a few weeks, some comparisons to how it stacks up against other bikes and that kind of thing, since you can rely on some of those other resources for like the real nitty gritty. So let's get into some of those other things that might apply for my situation that might help you out. So now that you've kind of been seeing this thing for a few minutes, I think some comparisons would be nice. So let's get into some other e-bike comparisons so you can kind of see how this thing stacks up size-wise to some of these other ones. Okay, so this is the Talaria MX-5, the newest Talaria. The size hasn't changed in the last few years, but this will kind of give you an idea of how this stacks up next to the Hovscos in terms of size and stuff. So here's kind of a front view of the two. I know they're leaning on their kickstands, but they're about the same height. If anything, the Hovsco has a little bit higher bars, but that way they're about the same. So the height very well might be one of the only very similar specs. The Hovsco is about 60 inches full wheelbase, front to back. Talarias are more like 70 to 72. So the Talaria is a much bigger bike, and then the Talarias weigh like 145, and then huge dramatic difference. These only weigh like 70, and so this is a much different style bike compared to some of these other ones. It's comparable to the other moped ones, but as far as like these full like dirt like specific ones, they're very different. So this is an easy like lift it up, throw it in the back of my truck bed type of thing, whereas a Talaria, like, that's a serious bike to pick up. So I only brought out the Talaria not to even compare these two at all from a power or anything standpoint. It's more of literally just size so you can see. That way if you're kind of familiar with what these look like, you can kind of tell what that might be size-wise. It's really hard to tell, I noticed, online or even in YouTube videos to actually gauge and see how a bike actually looks size-wise until you see it in person, so maybe that'll help. Even though it's smaller, which is a good thing, it can fit in the back of my truck and it's easier to move around, I still fit on it pretty well. So like it's easy, I have full arm length extended here. When I have my feet on the pedals, my knees and legs are kind of like at a 90 degrees. I'm not like hunched up like this trying to ride it like it's a little 50cc or anything. It's plenty comfortable that way. So before we go out and ride this thing, I will kind of show you the whole handlebar setup here, and I'll show you the different functions, the screen, the app, and a few different things that kind of help you understand how it runs and how it works. So right here on the side of the battery, this is where you charge it. So you have a little connection there for your charger, and then there is kind of like a master switch right here, but that can be left on. So if you have the bike turned off and on from the switch up top, then that can just be there. That's just kind of your main power switch for the battery itself. So as long as your main battery switch is on, you can just hit the power button right here. And so if you just hold that one down, it'll fire everything up. And you got a few different controls here. So one, before I get to that, this is your thumb throttle down here. And so you got your throttle right there, and then back right here. This is how you change the different modes for what you're in. So right now, this PAS is your pedal assist, and so that also, it's your pedal assist, but it's also how much power you're getting from your thumb throttle, so your overall power level. And so right now it's at 0, which is why that bike is not jumping out of my hands. But then if you use the up and down arrows here, you have 1 through 5 on your power levels. And so 5 is obviously going to be your fastest mode. And that kind of plays into whether you pedal or whether you use the thumb throttle. And so you can just do the thumb throttle alone, or if you pedal, if you're on number 5, it's going to give you more pedal assist than when you're on level 1. A few other quick controls you have here. If you just single tap the power button, it changes your mode here. So right there is your trip and then your overall odometer. And so your trip is just every time you start and stop the bike, that's it'll reset itself. Or your overall odometer right there. And then the next function you have on here is by using these same plus and minus arrows, if you double tap them, it gives you your blinker. So it's indicating it here, which is kind of cool that you can see that it's on. So you can double tap either of those to turn on your left or right blinker, and then you can double tap it again to stop it. And then this is obvious, but I forgot to mention it. So your miles per hour right there, and then your battery level right there. And then if you use the app, it'll actually show you an accurate percentage on your battery as opposed to just a bar here. So that's accurate, it's just not showing you down to the percentage like you can get on the app. So while we're right here, I'll show you how to unlock this. Most of these e-bikes come locked. This one comes locked at 20 miles an hour. So if you want to hit the top speed, I was able to hit 28. If you want to hit their claimed 32, you got to use the unlock feature. So you kind of got this magical little sequence you got to complete here. But if you hold the brake lever in, you got to pull that in, hold down the plus and minus, and hold down the power button. Give it a few seconds, the screen will come on. You got this blinking light right here. Then hit your plus and minus button one more time. And then you want to toggle over to P3. So use your headlight button. That's how you toggle through those different settings, P1, P2, and P3. You can see mine's already set here. Use your plus and minus arrows. P3 0 is the locked mode. That's what you'll see first. If it's on 1, like mine was already just set to, that's your unlocked mode. So that will give you full access to the unlocked power. So hopefully that gives you a decent enough view into some of the technical specs around this thing. Let's go actually ride it, and I'll give you some of my thoughts along as we go test this thing out. I'll show you some different things while we ride. All right, here we go. I've got it in level 5 already. I literally have not even done it in any other level besides that, really. Just because it's not really like it's so fast it's gonna hurt you. So it's more just fun to be able to have it in a level like this. This thing also has really good brakes. It's got hydraulic brakes that are actually I feel like as good as the Talaria is. So it's kind of nice to be able to have some good stopping power and not worry about that. Some of the first Talarias, like the MX3s, had really bad braking, and this is as good of brakes as the MX4 and the MX5. So we'll turn onto the flat road right here and see if we can't get a top speed. The acceleration's actually pretty good. Okay, so right there is about 28, and I'm actually going uphill a little bit, just a small little incline. So the way I ride these things is I'm in level 5 all the time. I'm rarely pedaling, and I'm going up and down big hills. I'm not doing anything eco-friendly at all. And what the results I've kind of seen out of that is that I'm able to go about 3 miles for every 20% battery life. And I know that because that's my commute to work. And so that includes flat, up and down hills, and kind of a little bit of every sort of terrain. And I lose about 20% battery. So you're looking at about 15 miles total is kind of your average if you're going full bore everywhere. And so your range obviously is going to change a ton if you decide to pedal, if you go lower on the pedal assist modes, all that kind of thing. But really I care more about what can I do the maximum of, and that's about 15 miles of up and down hills and full throttle everywhere I go. So on road and sidewalks and stuff, this thing does great. It's nice not having a super rigid frame, so you do have full suspension technically. So you've got front and rear suspension. It's not anything to write home about as far as jumping on a motocross track, but you wouldn't take a gas moped on a motocross track either. So here's some riding on the grass as well. And you might be able to hear it in my voice, but it's obviously a little bit bumpy. Again, we're not talking WP suspension here, but it's good enough that like it gives you a comfortable ride, and that's really all I ask for out of this thing anyway. So don't know if you saw that. I pedaled a little bit towards the top because I was getting lazy, but I didn't want to wait forever for it to pull me up the hill. Otherwise it pulls up stuff pretty well. As far as pedaling goes, that's about the only time I've ever even pedaled this thing is if I'm like at the top of a big hill and I am being impatient and don't want to wait for it to get me the rest of the way up. I'll pedal sometimes, but otherwise I think I explained this earlier, I'm just here to hop on this thing and cruise. If I'm gonna pedal, I'm gonna hop on a mountain bike or something. And also, like, if you can see my legs at all right now, like I'm kind of at a good 90-degree riding angle, and that's more of like a comfort, like hit the throttle and don't move my legs comfort. If you pedal, my knees are kind of coming up to the handlebars, which is not, like if you ride bikes, it's not a very good angle for that. And so if you're on a mountain bike, you're obviously going to be up a lot higher so you can have better extension out of your legs. This is just meant to be a cruiser. It's more of like, in my opinion, a pedal if you have to, but more of just use the throttle and cruise on it. So even though I said it's not designed for a motocross track, doesn't mean you can't take it on there if you want to. So it's not like you're gonna jump this thing like a dirt bike, but like even around a track with rocks and uneven stuff, it's actually surprisingly good. It's actually ripping through these berms pretty good. We'll see how it pulls this big jump here. All right, so you're not gonna catch air off of it, but it is gonna pull it up at no problem. Let's hit that one more time. The nice thing about having the big fat tires is it takes a lot of that shake and bounce out of stuff if you do the right PSI. So your suspension doesn't have to be expensive and crazy, which is nice because it brings the overall price point of this thing down, because your suspension doesn't have to be name brand. And then the fat tires take some of that bounce out. Okay, this thing is actually surprising me a lot. I haven't taken it on this track yet, and it is ripping through those berms. And I feel really comfortable on it. Like, it's not making me nervous, even ripping through them that fast. Okay, that's actually crazy. I was not expecting it to be that good. This thing might be a much better all-terrain bike than I was anticipating. I know they market it as such, but I really kind of didn't really believe that. I kind of was just more expecting it to be a city cruiser, which is true, and it's good for that, but it's actually handling off-road stuff better than I would think. Okay, so I just cruised 5 miles, 4.9, and it just dropped another bar is all, so another 20%. So one cool thing that separates a bike this size as opposed to like a Talaria or a Sur-Ron or something is that it's comfortable enough to ride and it's big enough that way, but it's light enough and small enough you can kind of carry it a few different ways. So there's no way I'm fitting a Talaria back there, and this isn't by any means like the most optimal way to do this, and it's also not like the very easiest, but it is possible with just like a little bit of work to fit this back here. So kind of showing you in real time. I'm not bull crapping you on anything. It's not like super easy, but it is doable to put it in there like that. So I've even got a bunch going on in there. I've got power and a fridge and deck drawers and cabinets and everything, and it's still able to kind of just lay down in there. So that's kind of an option for you too, is they're light enough and small enough that you can kind of throw them in the back of a pickup if you want to. So that might not be ideal if you were going camping and you had a bunch of camping gear back there, but if I'm ever just wanting to take this anywhere and I'm not riding it there, that's kind of my favorite way to do it. They don't have to put on a bike rack or anything. This thing has been kind of a blast to ride. Like, it's been this fun little commuter for me back and forth to work. My 2-year-old boy like loves going on rides around the neighborhood on it, and luckily the seat is big enough that there's like tons of room for both me and him to hop on there and go for cruises as a family, and that's been really fun. So overall my impressions of this thing are pretty good. Like, it's just been this really fun, like, moped, cruise around, like hit some dirt trails if you want to. I also plan on taking it like camping with me and stuff. So I've got a single place bike rack coming for it soon. And then I'll be able to just throw this on the back and have just kind of a small, lightweight little cruiser for up in the mountains or through cities or stuff on trips. And I think that will be a really fun aspect to it too. So I know I've been making tons of comparisons to Talarias and stuff, but that's just kind of my e-bike of choice as far as like a full-size, expensive, like dirt bike-like bike. And this isn't that, but on purpose. And so this is, even though I have full access to all the new Talarias, luckily, it's been fun to have access to them, I still find myself riding this thing as a commuter and just around town and being able to have the ability to throw it in my truck if I want to. These things still have their place even in comparison to some of these bigger ones. And so I'm not going to go ride single track on it or anything. It's not meant for that. But overall, like my impressions of it, I've been pretty impressed. So there's not many cons in my opinion to this thing. One thing that bugs me a little bit is your plus and minus buttons here. Those obviously control a couple different things. One being your pedal assist level, and then two being like if you double tap them, it's your blinker. And so that's kind of bugged me. Every time I hop on the bike, I wish it would stay in the level I left it on, which is just kind of part of what it is. And so I'm trying to get it all the way to 5 every single time because that's where I ride. But if you do it too fast, it double clicks and turns on your blinker. So it kind of takes a second to get all the way to 5, which is a minor gripe, but it does bug me a little bit. You do have to do some assembly on this thing, but everything on the handlebars is already on. But I didn't really love the way they arranged stuff. So I actually had to move my brake levers in, move the throttle out, move this whole control panel in one, and kind of just rearrange those things on the bars to get better placement on things. But that's an easy, like, couple minute thing to kind of put it where you want for what your preference is. But otherwise it handles surprisingly well. It's got like good power for what it is, and again, it's just been a ton of fun. So there hasn't been a whole lot of cons to it. So on their website it says it has a slashed out retail price that's $1,600, but it's really $1,000. It's $999. I do think this is kind of one of those situations and one of those companies where it's pretty much always the sale price. That's kind of how a lot of these Chinese companies work, which is fine. So this is pretty much $1,000 bike. I don't know if you'll see a whole lot of fluctuation in that. It kind of seems like that's their basis price, which is a good price, to be honest. It's pretty affordable for a good moped style bike. The new Talarias are like $4,800, I think, or something like that now. They've gone up a little bit. And so your value for what you can get out of one of these, or consider, like if you're considering getting multiple, you can get a couple of these for the price of some of these other ones if it allows you to have another bike for your kid or your wife or someone in your family or a friend. That's also something else to consider, is if you can do it with someone else and get 2. Well guys, thanks for checking out the review on the Hovsco GTRS moped bike. This thing has been a blast. I'll put all the links below if you want to check it out online, and we'll see you next time.